Good morning. It's September 8th. And you know what I haven't done for a while?
A book review.
This is
Next book on the list.
I said a book review? That's better. So, for the third time since beginning this project, I'm going to be reviewing a book other than the book that I said I would be reviewing the last time I did a review. Try saying that 5 times fast. I said in the last Favorite Books review that I would be reviewing How to Eat Fried Worms by Thomas Rockwell. But for some reason, for the life of me, I cannot get my hands on a copy of the novel. I know it's out there. I mean, I know there's a copy of it at my parents' house. I was able to find the other 2 Thomas Rockwell novels, but I couldn't find that one. And the library hasn't had it the last couple of times I've been there. And I could put out a request for it, I suppose, but I got to thinking. But first of all, I've done a lot of children's books lately, and while I certainly don't mind reading children's book after children's book, I realize that some of you might be getting a little bit tired of all these children's book reviews. And second, there's a small group of books that I've been really wanting to reread lately. These are all books that made it onto the favorites list sometime in the past year and a half or so. And I haven't actually had a chance to reread them yet, and so now I'm going to do some of those. Beginning with today's review of I Am the Messenger by Markus Zusak. I frickin' love this book. I think this might possibly be one of the most brilliant pieces of young adult literature in the world. I ain't mincing words on this one. And this is actually going to be kind of a hard book review for me to do because I'm the Messenger is one of those books that's really hard to describe. I mean, I guess I'll start with the plot. The story follows Ed Kennedy, who is a pretty good example of a completely useless human being. He's an underage cab driver who has made nothing of his life, has no plans to do so anytime soon, and is just fine with that. At least, he thinks he is. One day, Ed, rather inadvertently, stops a bank robbery. For a brief period of time, he becomes the town hero, and then he begins receiving cards in the mail. I don't mean like Christmas cards and birthday cards, I mean like playing cards, like aces. And from then on, Ed enters onto a new path where he becomes the messenger. He'll be given a playing card that will in some way point him to 3 people that he has to deliver a message to. What the message is and how he delivers it are left for him to figure out. But the pervading mystery during all of this is who is actually sending these cards to him. There are quite a few reasons why this book is brilliant and why I love it so much. The first is simply the way it's written, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that nobody uses the English language the way Markus Zusak does. And again, it's kind of hard to describe, it's just something that you have to read for yourself. There's a lot of kind of surreal imagery, metaphors coming to life, a lot of descriptions that kind of cross senses, like using a smell to describe a sound. Everything, plants, animals, people, inanimate objects, has a feeling or an emotion. It's kind of like if you combine an E.E. Cummings poem and a Salvador Dali painting, but in novel form. And it's really fun to read and incredibly descriptive. I also really like the way that this novel is structured. Just like with the tarot deck, there's kind of an inherent mystery about playing cards and their symbolism. Each part is designated to a particular suit. The first part is diamonds, because that's the first card that he receives. And then each part is divided into 13 chapters, going from ace to king. So, as Ed is taking his journey through the particular suit that he's working on, we are also taking a journey from ace to king through that suit. And it's kind of an awkward journey. Ed is kind of stumbling from place to place, from person to person, and sometimes he comes upon an answer almost accidentally. And there's always this kind of sense that there's a hidden symbolism that's just right there in front of you, but you can't quite get at it. And you've got to look at the journeys of the other characters too, which are significant. I mean, a lot of the characters in this book start out at best as boring, and at worst as just plain unlikable. But you learn more about each of them as you go through, and you discover the depth that's in every single character. Zusak really has a knack for taking what could be a really ordinary, though very good story, and adding that twist to it that makes it extraordinary. With Book Thief, you'll recall, he made the narrator deaf, which put a whole different spin on the story. There's a similar twist in this book, and it propels this book from being really good to being just plain phenomenal. And the twist is such that I really can't even tell you what it is. Now, if you've been watching my reviews for a while, you know that I really don't care about spoiling people. In fact, that's part of my plan for eventual world domination. I will spoil all books, movies, and TV shows for everybody, and then I will take over the world. No, maybe. But in this case, my need for world domination needs to take a back seat, because I really do not want to spoil this book for anybody. I really don't. But trust me, when you get to the end of the novel and you find out who has been sending these cards, you'll just be blown away. And the book has a great message, but I can't even tell you the message without giving away the ending. You have to read it for yourself. Like I said at the beginning, this book is really hard to describe. You just have to experience it. And it gets better with every rereading. When I read this book for the first time, it made it onto my top 10 list. When I read it for the second time, it made it to my top 5. Who knows, maybe if I keep reading it, it'll even beat out Time Traveler's Wife as my favorite novel of all time. Although it would have to beat out Book Thief first, which is also written by Marcus Zusak and also an incredibly brilliant book. Not only that, but this book is on my ultimate recommendation list, which means that no matter who you are, I'm going to recommend that you read this book. In fact, I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to implore you to read this book, because in order to really understand this book, you have to read it. So go! Find I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak and read it. Read it. Car driving past the apartment, but I don't care. Read this book. By the way, if you couldn't tell, it's still a favorite. And the next book on the favorites list is going to be The Bermudez Triangle by Maureen Johnson. And that's it for today. Happy Wednesday. Enjoy the explosions. Who describes plots and reviews anymore?